Episode 6.
Yeah.
Dude,
I know.
that's awesome.
Isn't it crazy?
It's like from an idea sitting in the office to bam, now we're at 6 episodes.
I know. That wasn't the intro. This is the intro.
Oh, but it sounded good.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Easy Podcast. This is episode 6, and I'm Zach Abbott's. With me, as always, is
Eric Thurston.
Yeah. And this week, we're going to be talking about the Halloween franchise, sort of.
Yes.
Really only the two that matter.
Right.
So, first off, though, what have you been up to, man?
I bought Call of Duty.
Okay.
Call of Duty came out Friday. I bought that.
Yeah.
I did buy a gold controller, kind of like Usain Bolt's gold shoes. I'm thinking it's going to make me a better gamer.
Man. I don't think it works like that. Is your PS4 gold too?
No.
Oh, then that's where they get you, man.
No.
All right.
My daughter's still better than me, and she's 11. So what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Man, I've been watching The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Okay.
So it's based off of a book of the same name from like 1956 or something like that is when it originally came out. Mm-hmm. And then they made a movie a few years later in the 60s that, from what I hear, stayed pretty true to the books. But then they made a movie in like 1999 with Liam Neeson, Owen Wilson, and some other people. Oh, yeah, Catherine Zeta-Jones is in it too, called The Haunting. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I remember about it is that, spoilers for The Haunting from 1999, Owen Wilson gets his head knocked off by a lion sculpture from a fireplace or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a good movie.
But of course, Liam Neeson doesn't die, right?
I think Liam Neeson ends up being the bad guy.
Oh,
I can't remember.
yeah.
I honestly can't remember. But anyways, from what I heard, what I've read, the 99 movie doesn't sound like it sticks too close to the actual story from the book. But anyways, the Netflix series Haunting on Hill House, it's pretty great. My wife and I are, I think, 5 episodes in, and the atmosphere and the vibe of the first couple episodes, I was like, they kept me in, but it was like, I think episode 4, maybe episode 5, where I was like actually kind of creeped out about some stuff. So that's awesome to me because I've grown up watching horror movies, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get into Halloween. But it takes quite a bit to creep me out. Gore stuff doesn't bother me. Like I'm so desensitized to it now. Mm-hmm. But I like the weird, creepy stuff. Like that's what really kind of speaks to me, is like the super creepy visuals. And this show has some of that. It's pretty awesome. So I recommend checking it out. I think there's 10 episodes. There might be a little bit more, but
this is Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, so Mike Flanagan did Gerald's Game on Netflix, which is a Stephen King adaptation, which I haven't seen yet, but I hear it's proper creepy too. So, anyways, that's what I've been watching. What have you been watching, Eric?
This week's been really more of a busy week. I haven't spent a lot of time watching stuff. Now, I did watch a lot of the entries on YouTube for the Halloween Film Festival.
Yeah,
thing.
Casey Neistat
in Moments. Yeah,
right.
The 368X Moment Halloween Festival, and
let's talk about that for a second, because last week we talked about it, and you were gonna put an entry in. And
I was juiced up. I had it.
Yep.
Man, I did all of the pre-production. Like I literally went through and I made shot lists. I'm like, okay, it's 3 minutes. I'm shooting it on my phone. Mm-hmm. I have zero budget.
Right.
And like, how can I do this in a way that, and so I kind of planned it all out, and we were going to do kind of this ghost, like my wife and I leave to go out to dinner. We leave the 11-year-old at home. She's playing Fortnite. And then one of the things in Fortnite in season 6 right now is that when you respawn,
spoilers for season 6.
Season 6 spoiler for Fortnite if you haven't already been playing it. It's been out for a few weeks. There's this kind of ghost effect before you respawn.
Okay.
And so it was cool. I'm like, oh, that would be a cool shot of over your shoulder shooting this kind of ghost effect on Fortnite or whatever.
Okay.
Because the movie was going to be titled Ghost. And so like she would hear some bumps, and the typical, she starts looking around and
right.
she goes down the hallway, and the hallway totally stretches out, the whole, and
You were going to do a push-pull with your cell phone?
I was going to do, in post, I was going to, because you had to shoot it on the phone. That was one of the requirements. And then so I start filming some B-roll. Actually, I think it was that night after we recorded the podcast, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I got it's all coming together.
Yeah.
And then I had some creative differences with my with my actress, which is my 11-year-old daughter.
Okay. All right.
And then she got a little overzealous, and she decided that she wanted to direct. So we had
your 11-year-old daughter and you had director creative differences.
We did, because she started arguing. She goes, "Dad, that doesn't work. People aren't going to like that." I'm like, wait, who's directing this film anyway? And she goes, "You are putting my iPhone at risk right now."
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was awesome. And so we're filming some and then we're getting some in the scene, and like I've got this scene where she walks down the hall. And I've got my wife involved too, and we make kind of this shadow that goes across. Like it's subtle, it's in the foreground, but it's subtle, and so you're following her down the hall, and then there's this shadow thing that happens. She gets to the front door and looks out the side window of the front door, and there's this really cool, the way the light hits it. There's a reflection of her in the glass. I'm like, it was a cool shot, and I zoom in on her face looking out the window, and she's giggling. I'm like, dude. And she's and she's like, I just can't. I'm like, you have to be scared. She was a poor actress. She couldn't get into character.
Hey, you're coming in hot on you.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot. And I'm like, all right, you know what? This is not working. We're headbutting. We're gonna kill this project.
You had
right
to let
now.
her go.
I had to fire my daughter. Yeah, it was probably the worst moment of my life.
Well, that's a pretty common thing, though, that I think a lot of people probably struggle with, and that's killing your babies. And I don't mean your daughter in this situation.
Right? No,
she's still very much alive.
Yes, she's very much alive.
But killing your projects and just being okay with that.
Yeah.
We work in a pretty collaborative environment, what we do on a weekly basis. And something that I just got used to years ago was just anytime somebody has, critiques or feedback or anything, it's about the project. It's not about you.
Right.
What do you feel whenever you were like, you finally were like, yeah, I got to kill this? Like, what went through your head on that?
Yeah, I think I had to get to a point where I'm like, there's a point at which when you're in a project or when you take something on that it's either you're working through challenges and it's working, right? You're making progress and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there's sometimes when you're in a project where it feels like you're just grinding it out. You're butting your head against the wall, or your 11-year-old daughter, and it just isn't working, right? Like the chemistry isn't there, or the vision that you had is really, it's not. There's like these unseen forces that are working against it that it's not coming together.
Right.
And I mean, an example of this would be Chinese democracy. If you're in the music space.
I was going to say, are you talking about the album?
Yes, I'm talking about the album. And this is a great example of a project that just never really came together. Now, it was released and it did terrible. And I got a little bit of an insight into this project because I was with a friend in New York. We were in Greenwich Village. We went and we're big Hendrix fans. Like, dude, we want to see Electric Ladyland, which is the studio. And so Eddie Kramer, who is a mutual friend, who was Jimi Hendrix's producer, sound guy,
sound engineer,
and he hooked us up with this kind of private tour. So we're in there and we're talking with the manager, and he's kind of walking us through the different studios and so two people were in there that were recording, Beyonce, and then they would turn the room over, and it was Axl Rose, and Axl Rose was working on Chinese Democracy. Now, Geffen Records had given him like $4 million to produce this album. This is back in 2000.
I don't even remember when this album came out.
Gosh, it was 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
It started in 2004 when they initiated it.
Right.
So he's 4 years in, and they pulled the plug. They're like, "This is taking too long.
Yeah.
You're at, and you're out of budget." And he just kept tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. It just wasn't good. Like he was striving for this level of perfection that he would just keep running up against the wall.
Yeah, right.
And this is an example of that. And so he ended up spending another, I want to say $6 or $7 million of his own money to get this project done.
That's insane to me. Those are such ridiculous numbers for an album recording.
It is. And then once they get the album done, once he gets it done, it totally fell flat. Like it did not produce.
Yeah, because you said Chinese Democracy, and I immediately thought the actual government. Wait, that's not a democracy.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Oh yeah, there was an album that came out.
Yeah, and it was just, and I think it's an illustration. And there was many write-ups about it, and Axl was open, in some interviews about it after the fact. But it's one of those projects where it probably would have been better off just let's scrap it.
Yes, start over.
Let's scrap it. Let's reboot, and maybe we've learned some things in that process, and maybe we need to go a different direction. So so circling all the way back around out of that is that this project was super tight time wise. I would have had to spend 2 nights up all night in the edit mode, and because I was planning on doing some cool shadow effects on the wall and that type of thing. So it would have been some After Effects work, and I wouldn't have got a lot of sleep. And I'm like, maybe it's probably better that I just let this one go.
Yeah, right.
You can't win them all. You can't submit to them all. And then sometimes if it flowed and she got right into character and there was no pushback, I might have gotten one submitted in, and we would have been having a different discussion right now. And then I realized, well, maybe the time that I'm spending with my daughter filming this thing is not the kind of time that she wants to spend.
Sure.
No,
that's good.
Yeah, so we sat down, we played some Fortnite, had some cereal, and we killed that project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of killing projects, let's move on to our featured presentation, which is a killer movie.
I see what you did there. Nice.
All right. Yeah, we're going to talk about Halloween.
Nice segue.
2018 right now.
Yeah.
We're also going to talk about the original Halloween, some from 1978. So if you haven't seen these, we're going to try and be spoiler free on 2018 for a little while, and then we'll warn you.
Yeah, I don't know how long.
Yeah, but we're going to spoil definitely the original Halloween here. So if you haven't seen
40
it,
years, right? I'm like,
yeah, I think the statute of limitations is gone on that one. Go see it if you absolutely feel like you can't have it spoiled. But I imagine if you're listening to this, you've probably seen the original. So 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween comes out. Budget of $300,000, made $70 million worldwide. It's a heck of a return.
yeah.
I first saw this movie when I was probably way too young, but I was maybe 10, maybe 9.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
When it released.
I saw it on basic cable, when I was younger. But
Yeah.
I watched this last Sunday with my wife, and she had never seen it before.
The new one.
No, the original.
Oh, the original.
So we watched.
Because the new one wasn't out last Sunday.
Yeah. So we're watching the original on Sunday, and my wife had never seen it. I hadn't seen it in 15, maybe 20 years. It's a heck of a lot scarier as a 10-year-old than it was as a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
It's
slow.
It's a boring movie.
Oh man, it's slow.
Yeah. you got to give it props for what it launched. It launched the entire slasher genre of films.
It did, yeah.
But man, other movies came out and other movies did it a lot better. Nightmare Before Christmas, Friday the 13th, just tons of these other classics.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Did I say Nightmare Before Christmas?
You did.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm like, wait, that wasn't Jack Skellington? Was he?
Yeah, Jack Skellington and Freddy Krueger got together. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, we watched the original, and I forgot how it's so boring. It really is boring, and he only kills like 5 people in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5.
And they're not very interesting. They don't really make a whole lot of sense. I think at one point he kills, one of the boyfriends or whatever, and stabs him, and he hangs him on the countertop or whatever, the cupboard in the kitchen with the knife, which would mean the knife is like 30 inches long, but it's not a sword. It's still sticking out of his body like a good 6 inches. It's like, how big is this knife that he just stabbed through this guy? But the thing that I love about the original is just kind of the atmosphere is great. I still feel like, the small town, it's all in a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You don't connect at all with the Michael Myers shape character at all. You're not supposed to.
Right.
And then the music, obviously, I love John Carpenter's score for it.
Oh, the score is iconic. It's iconic. You play that dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
dun, and you know
exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as pacing and great ideas, they're not really there. It's a boring movie, really.
Well, and it's interesting because the music is such a key element in the feel, and I think by today's standards, it's slow. The pacing is slow. You're like, it's a yawner.
Yeah.
For a big percentage of what it is, but I think they relied a lot more heavily on just the music to get you in that space.
And I think sometimes it worked. I think the music in it is great, but at the same time, I think so much of the music comes in at weird times where it almost spoils anything that's about to happen, like where you're supposed to be kind of creeped out, or you're maybe not supposed to be seeing Michael in the background or whatever, but then the music kicks in and you're like, oh, well, something is about to happen. It's like, spoiler. But here's the thing with this is the original 78 Halloween. I remember watching it and thinking, man, if somebody made this now, it would be better. And because I think with a bigger budget and modern technology and modern camera work and cinematography, it could be a heck of a movie. And that brings us to the heck of a movie that it is, Halloween 2018. Mm-hmm. It's great. I loved this movie a lot. And it's a great Halloween movie. And I think it's probably the best Halloween movie. It's definitely better than the original. But my caveat with that, my little asterisk, is that this movie does not work without the original.
Right, yeah.
You definitely have to have had that experience of the original before you can go into this. And if you haven't, you're going to be a little lost. But at the same time, you also just don't pick up on so much of the atmosphere and just the little nods that are in the 2018 that point back to the original 78 release. Oh,
and it was great. And I think the thing that makes this work so well is the tie together with, you want to talk about patience. 40 years that separates these two films.
Yeah.
But yet you could have played it 2 years after the original release, and it works so well.
Well, that was really interesting. In a lot of ways, I thought it was going to be such a stark difference going from watching the original a week ago to then on Thursday we went and saw the new one, and they actually work really well back to back.
Nice.
I was really surprised at how much of a feeling you still get, even with the total modernization in the new one. It still has just the same vibe kind of as the original
small
movie.
Town vibe. The characters, you still have Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
You still have...
Which I think she's actually really great in this.
She's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so what can we talk about first without spoilers? I think this movie looks great.
Yes.
The cinematography is really interesting, and there's a heck of a lot of callbacks cinematography-wise to the original. There's actually, this is a minor spoiler, but Michael is wreaking havoc. If you've seen the trailer, if you know anything about Halloween at all, so it's not that big of a spoiler, but there's a scene in the original where Dr. Loomis, who's the doctor, Michael's doctor in the original 1978 one,
psychiatrist, yep.
And a nurse are driving to the psychiatric ward to meet with Michael, and they pull up, and it's all you can see is the headlights, and then it's raining, and there's fog and everything, and then the headlights reveal a bunch of patients just walking around outside. And it's really creepy imagery. Yeah. It's really creepy. So in this one, though, in the 2018, there's another group. They're driving down the road, and then they reveal with their headlights a similar situation of patients walking around in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really nice callback, but at the same time, man, it just one-ups that visual style from the original. I think it looks great. I mean, that visual wouldn't be there without the original, but at the same time, like this movie really just takes the ideas from Halloween and is like, okay, here's more time, here's more budget, make it how it needs to be, and I think it really excels in that.
Well, and it's so the actors might not appreciate this, but you don't need the makeup to put that 40 years on.
No,
right. You got actual 40 years of wear and tear on the actors that were involved, and having the same actors is, I mean, you're still in it. You're still in the story. The story's still engaging. The one. This isn't a spoilery scene, but when Michael is walking down the driveway down the side of one of the houses into kind of like this shed, the storage shed, or the garage area.
Yeah, this wasn't a scene released online. Yeah.
And he's looking for his next tool or weapon or whatever, and just the feel of that, I'm like, oh, I identified with, oh yeah, that looks like my buddy's house.
Yeah.
And he has a shed in the back, and it's kind of laid out the same way. And and I think one of the things that make this so good is that there are many elements in any film, for that matter, when there's elements that you can connect with that emotionally resonate with you, or in reality you identify with a place that you've experienced, that's going to make that film that much better. And you can't plan that. That's not, you can't go, oh, hey, let me call up Zach and say, hey bro, what is what are some of the experiences that you had growing up? But they pull on, generalities, but illustrate them in a way that you connect with. And that wasn't that's a transition scene.
Right. It's not a major scene at all.
At all. Yeah. But yet I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm drawn in my mind having this experience, and I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Well, there's so much of this that people use the term like lived in a lot when they're talking about set decoration and art direction and stuff. And this movie, it definitely feels lived in, which is very similar, I think, to the original in '78. That's something that these two, I think, accomplished really well in the feeling of this. None of this really felt like they were shooting it on a back lot,
right?
Or that they were shooting it at a studio or at any point.
Yeah.
It all felt like real houses. Like they actually went and found that shed, and it just happened to actually look like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene, it's in the same scene where he's walking through a house, and that house it feels real.
Yeah.
The whole thing feels real. The layout of the house makes sense. It's not laid out like a movie house. And that was something that I was actually surprised in when I was rewatching the original, was like just the babysitters and the direction, the art direction, and the just all the set design in the original felt so realistic. It felt like actual houses, and it probably was. I mean, at the time, when they shot it for $300,000, like they weren't building houses. No. They didn't have the budget for that.
Right.
This one, they may have built certain houses and stuff. I know they definitely built Laurie Strode's house that we'll talk about later. But I mean, the art direction in this is great, and especially it's definitely the best looking Michael Myers out of all of them. I mean, we should mention that there was 9 sequels or whatever between.
Do we
one
have
and
to
this.
mention those? I mean, because some of them were pretty awful.
No, I mean they're all pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing that this does is it wipes that slate clean, and it just says that there's only the first one, and then there's this one.
It totally, and it does a fantastic job of that. And I appreciate you bringing up the art direction, because that scene where Michael's walking through the kitchen, you know, you get a POV as he's walking through the kitchen. I found myself looking at the pictures on the refrigerator.
Yeah,
I found myself looking at the coloring, like they had a kid that had some coloring stuff from their kindergarten class or whatever, and you couldn't really make out what it was, but like any 5 or 6 year old's drawing, you probably couldn't make out what it was. So it really felt like, oh yeah, my wife did that when my kids were in that, and it was like, yeah.
I think a lot of what this movie and the original movie did too is they had really good casting for the most part. I'm going to talk about one person later, but the casting I think is really strong in both of these, because none of them seem like they're really casting just for like a look. They're not. It's not like they're in 2005. Or it may have been a little later, but they remade the Wax Museum movie, and it had Paris Hilton in it. She's not in there for her acting experience. She's not good. So she's in there just because she's Paris Hilton and just because she looks a certain way. The original Halloween, it didn't feel like any of those actors or actresses were like overtly attractive just because it was supposed to be this like kind of heartthrobby Halloween movie, horror movie or anything like that. And then also in this movie, it felt like Judy Greer's in this, and she plays Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, Laurie Strode's daughter in this. And she is married to her husband in the movie is this older actor. I don't have his name pulled up, but he again, this just goes along with what I'm talking about just you're hiring actors maybe for their acting skill as opposed to their looks. And I feel like this movie does a lot of that, and it gets a lot of really great casting. With my point that I'm trying to make is that we're talking about art direction, we're talking about all this, and I think a lot of how I'm engrossed into a movie and how I just dedicated into this movie experience is by being able to relate to actors,
right,
and being able to relate to the way they look and all this stuff. If the father was some 35-year-old actor that they were trying to make seem like a 45-year-old actor, or if it was George Clooney or something like that, it would immediately take me out of the experience,
right?
Because these actors that were in this movie felt like normal,
real people. Yeah,
real people, and I thought the direction in that. Which is we didn't mention yet, but it's directed by David Gordon Green, who's he's a comedic director most of the time. I mean, he's done movies like Your Highness, and he worked on Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride, and Danny McBride wrote this with David Gordon Green. It's just really interesting that these guys that like they're usually comedic writers and directors took on this Halloween franchise, and it's clear that they loved it. It's clear that they grew up watching them. It's clear that they had a respect for the original, and it definitely comes out in the way that the story is told and the way that this story is written.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was just, you have the gratuitous boyfriend pops out from behind the whatever when the babysitter takes out the trash. You have these. Yeah,
there's a couple of jump scare moments. That are there just because that's the history of the genre.
It is. Yeah. It is, and it didn't bother me. Sometimes it's like
sometimes I roll my eyes. Yes, there's never one of those here where I'm like, oh come on,
right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with. The sound design with it, it goes along in a very typical way that the most jump scares do. But at the same time, I didn't feel like the sound design for the jump scares was like overly done, where it was like forcing a jump scare, like it was really trying for a jump scare out of you. So I thought the sound design in it is great. This is actually a movie where the sound plays more of a part in a lot of ways than anything else.
Talk about the sound. Talk about the sound of the mechanic's teeth hitting the tile.
Yeah. So this is in the trailer too, so not a spoiler.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, you see this it's out there.
Yeah.
Just dude, that I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's gross. There was people like behind me that went, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. But there's such a great visual gag.
It was. It was definitely an element of gore without being too gory.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's not really much in the original at all. Not really much gore in the original. In fact, I don't think there's any like actual cuts scene or anything. I mean, when Michael kills his sister in the very beginning of the film when he's like 6, there's just like blood smeared on her. Like you don't actually see any knife insertion or anything like that. And this movie though, I was actually kind of surprised that it did go a little bit more. It definitely modernized it. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of scenes in there where I was like, oh man. Like,
I mean, they went. I was, you've seen 40 years of horror movies, and some more gory than others. But after 40 years, and it was like when I saw The Equalizer with Denzel Washington. Why do I bring that up? Well, because he's doing some unique things that we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. Like he's running around thwarting bad guys in a hardware store, right? Essentially using different hardware tools that we've never seen used in that way before. Yeah. And I think in the same way, we see Michael Myers. Now, I use the term creative, loosely. Yeah, right. But we're going to start to get into some spoilery stuff here if I continue down this road. So I'm going to
pause and we'll come back to a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can we talk about? The cinematography is great. The sound design is great. The direction is great. I think the overall story is really strong. The only thing that I had issues with would be there's this dance party, like the school dance.
Oh yeah.
The boyfriend aspect with that seemed really forced and kind of random. Mm-hmm. There's a moment there. And then the Judy Greer acting in this movie, I found kind of flat. Everybody else I thought was actually really great in it, but there is one scene where Judy Greer is like kind of giving this little flashback moment to her childhood. Mm-hmm. And it's just the flattest acting I think I've seen in a long time, especially from somebody who's disconnected. For somebody who's usually really strong in what she's in.
Unless her approach was, I want to kind of communicate this disconnect because she was trying to disconnect emotionally from the
history. Right. I could see that's maybe where they were going with it,
but it didn't land well.
We're purposely being a little vague here because there's a little bit of a spoiler in that, but it just didn't feel fleshed out enough to get the payoff of the direction that maybe they were trying to go with in that scene for her to act that way. Other than that, though, her husband in this is great. He's hilarious. Mm-hmm. The granddaughter, Jamie Lee Curtis's granddaughter, isn't not the literal granddaughter, but her character's granddaughter is in this, and she's great. She does a couple of Halloween horror tropes. I think everybody in this is great, though. One thing that I did not realize until going home and looking at it was that Nick Castle, who played the original Michael Myers in 1978, plays him again in this. Really? Yeah. Wow. So all of the shots that you see of Michael without his mask on, which is just in the very beginning with like the psych ward stuff. And you, by the way, sorry, not a spoiler, you don't see him without his mask on. It's very abstract. Not his face. Yeah, anyway. You don't see his face. You see, his body and everything. But that is actually Nick Castle. Funny thing about Nick Castle is that he went on to actually be a pretty significant and popular writer and director who did The Last Starfighter. He directed that, Major Payne, and Dennis the Menace. Oh, wow. Yeah. So this guy that plays one of the most iconic horror film characters ever went on to make and direct Dennis the Menace, The Last Starfighter, and Major Payne. Like, wow. You couldn't be more polar opposite.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, okay, so for the non-spoilery thing, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is the the babysitter discovering Michael in the closet scene, to me, felt like it dragged on. Like the pacing of it was off. And I think you identified it pretty awesomely, where it gets spoiled by the trailer.
This is something that, again, I know you have to show things in the trailer to get people to the movie. But this is a scene that I feel like if I didn't know the payoff of it, that Michael was already in the closet and that's why she can't shut the door, which is spoiled in the very first trailer.
Yep.
That scene would have been so much more effective.
Yeah, I agree. Because I couldn't figure out why I felt like it took too long.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, get there. And I'm sitting there feeling like that because I know what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the whole time I'm waiting for it, and then I'm like, is it here? Oh, no, it's not here. So then you're just waiting.
Because it's like, I don't want to get emotionally tied to any kind of character development throughout this scene because they're going to be gone. He's going to kill them in 2 minutes or 4 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever, and yes.
So. I do really like the acting in that scene, though. I think the babysitter and then the kid that she's babysitting are great and hilarious. That whole scene, that
totally believable.
Awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. It's something that I think for us, because we've seen the trailer, it seems like it drags on too long. But gosh, if you hadn't seen the trailer, I think that would have been such a more effective moment.
Yeah.
So, okay, well. Go see Halloween. You're probably going to go see it. Tis the season to go see horror movies. This is definitely the one to go see. It's technically great. The acting is great. Mm-hmm. It looks awesome. I thought it was shot on film. Turned out it was actually shot on the Alexa. So it looks killer. No pun intended. And
you're full of those today.
There's a really good one take in there that's not overly technical, but it's just you just appreciate it when you see it.
Yeah.
I won't spoil that, but go see it. That's Halloween 2018, a little bit of Halloween 78.
And it got People's Choice nom at the Toronto Film Festival. How about that?
I guess, yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So film festivals, since we're getting ready to go into spoilers, if you're still listening, next week we're going to talk about film festivals, small, big, all of them.
From the inside and from the outside.
Yep. So we've both worked at a couple. So we're going to talk about that next week. So make sure you come back and check that out. And we're going to get into the spoilers for Halloween 2018. So go see Halloween and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode. So spoilers for Halloween 2018. I loved the ending where they completely flip Michael being the hunter to now the Strodes are the hunters.
Yeah.
In the house.
Yeah.
So the house is great. Mm-hmm. When they first introduced him, like, this is a little gimmicky. It feels a little strange that she would be this over the top.
Dude, the house looked like the front of the house when you first see it looks like the house from Stranger Things.
It does. It does. Yeah. It looks like Winona Ryder's house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it does. That's true. But the writing in this it was so good.
Yeah, it was.
Because it went from, Michael Myers is the hunter and he's going after Laurie Strode and her family, which if I can go on a little detour here and talk about that real quick. The writing in this is really clever because you would think, like, in a movie like this, it's so easy to just say that things are they're just convenient for the writing for this guy to end up at this place. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking back to it, and like Michael Myers never ends up at a location where Laurie's at just by accident. He does end up there by accident. He never ends up there just because he somehow finds her through the magic of the universe.
Right.
Okay. So the big twist in this movie is that the doctor that's supposed to be like the new Loomis, which they literally say in the movie, is actually the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a great twist.
Yeah.
And this also, as a writing way, is a perfect way to get Michael Myers to Laurie Strode. Mm-hmm. Because if you didn't, and all of a sudden he just ends up at her house, like, you'd be like, how did this happen? But then that wasn't it. I realized that even if you didn't have that doctor moment, he still could have gotten to Laurie's house because he stole the podcast car.
And chased the granddaughter.
And he chased the granddaughter, right?
Because that's where she's going.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought it was just really clever writing in this.
It was.
In a lot of ways, because nothing ever happens like just for convenience sake of the story. It's always thought out before the event happens. So the doctor goes crazy. Then he wants to see what happens when Michael and Lori get together finally. And like, that's his weird
Well, yeah, he wants to hear Michael say something.
Yeah, right.
Like, dude, how are you not saying anything in 40 years?
Yeah. There's a really good scene with one of the daughter's friends that I like. Like, he kind of tries to make a move on her, so then they split up. And he's like drunk sitting in the yard of this person's house they're trying to cut through. And the security lights go off. And you see Michael in the distance, and the kid thinks that he's just the owner of the house. And he's like, sorry, Mr. Whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But then the security lights go off again, and then they come back on, and then Michael's closer. And then like they come back on again, and Michael like comes for the kid. I loved that. I thought that was a great scene, and just showing like kind of this weird intelligence with Michael, like in the sense of like he knows when to do stuff and when not to do stuff. We mentioned earlier that there's a single take in this, and what it is basically from when he enters this house, kills a lady with a hammer, and then he gets his knife. It's where he gets his butcher's knife that he's so famous for. And then from then on, it's a single take that goes just out into the neighborhood and just hangs there for a little while as this couple, they're getting ready to go to a Halloween party. They get in their car and they drive off, and then it follows Michael into this window, and it just shows the window, and a lady's getting ready to lock up for the night because she's just tired of the trick-or-treaters. So she's closing her window, and then you just see Michael through the other window, walks around into the house. You can see this big shadow from like clearly her patio light is on or whatever, and he's just this big shape shadow, which is just such good imagery.
Yeah.
And then she's looking out the window. She's getting ready to close the blinds, and he just stabs her through the neck.
Oh,
and I was
my
like,
goodness,
oh,
that
man.
was brutal.
Yeah.
that was one of the most gory scenes. Not a lot of blood.
No,
in that scene.
There's not a lot of blood in the movie, really. But yeah, everybody in the theater just goes, oh,
yeah,
yeah. It's one of those things where I think slasher movies they can sometimes go a little caricature of killing. Like somebody gets stabbed with a wrought iron, but it just looks so fake. The thing that got me with this movie that I think is more effective to me is like when the killings almost look more realistic, like that's how it could actually look in real life. And then that really kind of gets to you and that digs under your skin a lot more. There's a few of those in this where you're just like, you just kind of shudder because you're just, oh gosh.
It's one of those Equalizer. Oh, wow. Like you just did that. Yeah. It like the shock, which, it's hard to shock the audience in 40 years.
I know. Yeah.
And they shock the audience with, dude, the scene where he basically hijacks the cop car after the whole doctor kind of goes nuts or whatever. Right. And the other cops show up and they're trying to figure out what went down.
Yeah.
He basically crushes the doctor's head
with his boot.
Yeah,
one hit.
And you don't really get a sense of how strong or powerful Michael really is until he starts kicking in the
stuff like that. Yeah,
like he's kicking in the cage from behind.
He's in this cop SUV and he kicks in the cage and just totally knocks out the doctor that's driving the car.
Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to keep anybody out from getting into the front of the cop car whenever you're arrested, and he just kicks it in immediately.
Yeah, like it was nothing. And then and the one that really got me, here's the one that got me was that when he rolls up, like he obviously rolls up the cop car into a tree or whatever at Laurie Strode's house. Right. And the dad comes out thinking, "Hey, the cops are here. It's good." And you sit in the audience, you're shaking your head. No, don't do it.
There was somebody 3 rows down that was like, "No, don't, bro,
don't go out there." Yeah, and he goes up and opens the door.
Yeah,
Dude, and the guy's skull is like a jack-o'-lantern. He's got it lit from the inside, and it was like hollowed out, and it was like, oh, man. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. It was just on a whole, I mean, there's a psychological, and that's the thing about this one, is that there's a psychological element to it.
Oh, for sure.
That really, like you mentioned earlier about the doctor being the bad guy, you know, and that whole spin. And you can see the doctor's eagerness to kind of like his pursuit in studying this guy, like trying to understand him, gets to a very twisted and demented place when he goes, what does that feel like? Like you hear, he's talking to himself, and it's like,
he's like, oh, so that's what it's like to kill a person or whatever,
right? When he kills the
sheriff,
and it's like, oh wow,
yeah,
didn't see. I mean, you could feel some of the tension between him and the sheriff, as far as like, hey, he's a property of the state, we're not going to kill him, and the sheriff's like, I ain't making that mistake again, and.
There's a lot of, and it's in the original too, where it's like, this is a movie about just what evil can be. And it just shows you. I mean, the scene I was talking about earlier where, there's a bunch of inmates, walking around the street, and it's very reminiscent of the original. Michael kills a kid and his dad to get their car. I didn't know that. I was like, he's, cause at least what I remember, he's never gone that far to like being killing kids, and just strangles the kid in the car and breaks his neck, and then that's it. Takes the car and drives off, and like later on you see the dad, and he's all jacked up too.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a scene later on in the one take where you hear a baby crying.
Right. This is
after that. So
I'm like, no. I'm like, really? Is he going to do it?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But it's so interesting as like a character study where I'm sitting here and you're just like, why? You do in a little bit of a way, you do sympathize with the doctor in the sense of just asking the question, why is Michael like this? You want answers. You don't like the unknown.
Right.
And that's what the whole series, the first one and this one, the question that is just, the whole thing is just being afraid of the unknown.
Right. It's the boogeyman.
The boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great that they go through this one take, and he's just killed the grandma or the mom or whoever it was in the kitchen, and then he gets his knife, and then you hear the baby crying, and he just walks past the crib and keeps going.
Yeah, and the baby's crying.
And
it's
crying.
Like one of the things that any parent that has a kid knows that's been through that stage, that
it's hard, it's stressful.
It is, and you're like, just shut up.
Yeah.
You're like, I've fed you, I've changed your diet, I've done all it, and you're, what is it? And
you could have just as easily, killed the kid and walked out.
And it would have been like he probably wouldn't even have used the knife. It would have been a one punch done, and you're done. And
but I think that makes it so much more effective to have him not kill the baby, because then you're like, what are you doing?
Right. Like, why are you
doing anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're drawing the line at that, or are you drawing the line? What are you doing? Is it just because you're hunting prey? No, it's not really that, because you're just walking into random houses and putting people out of their misery. And man, I think, I mentioned it earlier, but the writing in this is just really clever. It's really interesting, and it kept me engaged through the entire movie. And then the twist at the end with, there's a ton of homages in the Laurie Strode house at the end where she's looking for him in the house. He's in the house somewhere, and the daughter and the granddaughter are in the basement, locked away in this kind of panic room thing. And Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis, is walking through the house, and she comes up to the closet. The bifold door closet that's very throwback to the 1978 original.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, well, he's going to be in there, right? And she opens it up, nothing. But then they do it again. Like 2 minutes later, she's in another closet, opens it up, the husband's in there. Like, oh, well, there it was. But then they're like, one more. We're gonna do one more. So then she opens up the rest of the closet.
Yeah.
He's not in there. And then he comes from behind with all these mannequins and stuff that are in the room, and it's great.
Yeah.
But that leads her to, she runs out the window flips over the edge of the balcony and lands on the ground, exactly like the last shot in Halloween 78.
Mm-hmm.
Michael hears Laurie Strode's daughter yell for Laurie. He looks up, looks back at the house, and then when he looks back down at the ground out the balcony, she's gone, and just like the original.
Awesome, yeah.
And then that's the moment where I realized, oh, we're doing something here.
Yeah.
We're not just paying homages, we're actually flipping this idea of what the Halloween movie is to get back at Michael. She's finally going to get that, that revenge for that night.
Oh, yeah. She's getting it all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the throwbacks, the callbacks, but then also just the originality of those callbacks. They didn't feel forced at all. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah. It was well done from start to finish. And I mean, you start off with the podcasters, you know, the investigative journalists,
right.
Sitting down with Laurie and you know, the guy that's interviewing her is kind of snarky and is like, yeah, so, you know, I'm pulling up all these emotional heartstrings in this whole situation. And he's like, I don't know if I believe Mike Myers, and you know, that he's a person and he's got issues. I don't know if I believe in the boogeyman.
Yeah.
You know, and she was like, you should.
Right. Which,
you know, it's that, like you said, it's the unknown, right? Mm-hmm. It's the psychological elements where you're not going to have an answer, and evil doesn't have to have a reason.
Right. I think this is a very effective slasher movie, even just a movie in general about like the human condition, or, you know, just kind of the psyche, because in a lot of slasher movies, you know, you take like Friday the 13th, Jason is killing because, you know, like there's this whole backstory of like his mom was killing because he drowned in the water in Camp Crystal Lake, and then now he's killing because they killed the mom, and then it kind of gets away from that. It ends up just being more about the kills in the movie and less about the actual characters and the development of the characters.
Like how can we scare people? Yeah. Like how can we make people jump
scares, and how we gross people out and all this. But
yeah.
I feel like Halloween, man, this was such a great just film because it focused more on what actually scares people. And going back to that, we don't, you know, the unknown. We don't know why he's doing this. Huge. It makes us uncomfortable.
Yep.
And I was just uncomfortable throughout most of the movie, and I thought it was great. It was a really great, smart, well acted, well directed, everything movie. I really enjoyed it. So was not let down at all. Anything else you want to talk about though with it?
No, I mean, just the emotion that's captured. You feel like Jamie Lee Curtis just knocks it out of the park. I mean, you feel like she's like, I'm gonna, you know, just that rage and that vengeance of, you're not gonna get me, and I'm gonna do everything in my power. To the point, even to the scene when she walks into the celebration dinner, you know, with the granddaughter, and, you know, and she's having this breakdown because, you know, oh, here we are again.
Yeah, Halloween night, and
you know,
reminiscing, right?
Yeah, I mean, just well done. Just you, I mean, you're like, oh, and then you're sympathizing with her because you're like, no, you're not going through that kind of traumatic experience and not have some response, and then, you know, the family's like, oh, you just need to get over it.
Right. Which I really liked as a dynamic.
It was great.
It's such a mirror into our current world where nobody really cares or believes, and a lot of people that do go through these traumatic experiences that they haven't gone through themselves, a lot of them just think, oh, you just need time, you'll just get over it. Right. Where, I mean, these moments in real life, they screw people up.
They do.
And rightfully so. I mean, bad stuff happens to good people all the time.
Yep.
And they don't know how to cope with it well. And I thought this was a really realistic look at how people treat
100%.
You know, people that do have PTSD and stuff like that. And I thought it was a great addition to just building that character of Laurie Strode.
Yeah, great character development because of that, and sadly, kind of a slap in the face with the lack of sensitivity or the lack of how culture kind of comes alongside people to really like, hey, let's and what more close people that would do that would be your family, but yet the breakdown. And does this move, does that type of thing and that character development, I think, work in another culture? Does it work in another country? Yeah. People love going to see movies and it's going to do well because of that. But I think this is uniquely an American culture film.
Yeah, it definitely feels middle America. I mean, it is. It takes place in Indiana or Iowa.
Yeah,
or
Indiana.
Or Illinois.
Illinois. Yep.
So
one of those I states.
Yeah. But man, this is exciting to me because this is 2 weeks in a row that I've seen great movies, and
your palate is completely cleansed from that other.
Yeah, and from what I hear, it's beating Venom, which it should be in its 3rd week. So, I'm ready. I'm ready to see more of this, and I don't know if they will. But did you stay past the credits?
No.
Yeah.
Was there an Easter egg at the end?
Sort of.
Oh man, because you don't see. Here's another spoiler. You don't see Michael actually burn up.
Yeah.
When they torch the house.
You don't, but you do hear after the credits. You hear him breathing in the mask.
Oh man,
it's just the audio.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you kidding?
Which is another throwback again to the original,
right?
Where they're getting ready to go. They're getting ready to go to the credits, and you hear him breathing, and then
they
go to
well, because of course you want to tee up a sequel if it does well.
I mean, I think this movie is going to do well. I don't know if hopefully. Oh, and again, this is another Universal movie. So First Man was Universal also. I now have a company that I'm kind of trusting a little bit. I don't know if I should, more than I am. But I just thought 2 great movies back to back. They're both probably not going to make as much as they should, but Halloween will definitely do better than First Man did. And
I do want to mention this. Speaking of Halloween, is that this release? So part of movie making is, when do you release it?
Yeah.
Right, because you spend all this time making this great product, and when is the right time to release it into the market?
Right, because there's a emotional and a psychological subconscious thing that goes when you release a movie too. You don't typically want to release a horror movie in, like, say, March, because people aren't really vibing.
It's the spring. It's
Halloween.
New life.
Yeah. So Halloween is Halloween in that October release line, and you were actually talking about it being the perfect release of not too early, not too late. Exactly.
It hit right in the sweet spot, because I've, over the years, and everybody's seen it, is that, we're going to release a Halloween movie at the end of August or the beginning of September.
Right.
When school's back in and la la la. It's like, that's too early.
Yeah.
It's too early. People haven't got in their fall routines yet. They're, they're trying to figure out their classes and all that type of stuff. Or it releases November 2nd.
Which is like, who cares?
Like, dude, that was 2 days ago. Like,
I want to start seeing Thanksgiving and Christmas movies now. I don't care anymore.
Exactly.
No, this is a good release. I think it'll have a good word of mouth, and it'll just pick up over the next couple of weeks, especially with Halloween coming up in 2 weeks. So, out of spoilers now. So Halloween's great. Go check it out, and man, just really enjoy it. I think it's a really enjoyable experience. It's a lot of fun. It's really good filmmaking. That's it for this week. Next week, though, we're going to talk about the film festival experience, insides and out. We've both worked a couple of film festivals. Eric, you've worked South by Southwest for 5 years, and I did Florida Film Festival. But we're going to kind of talk about, there's not any major releases coming out next week or this week since Halloween. So we're gonna just kind of talk on something different here, our experiences with that, and kind of just what everybody kind of expects a film festival to be like, and maybe you're not familiar with, or maybe you want to try to get into one, or you want to go attend one. There's a couple going on here in Arizona the next couple months. So we're going to hit on that next week. And you got anything else, Eric?
No, yeah, I think it'll be fun talking about, unpacking the mystery of what, a film festival is and maybe what it isn't, for people that aren't familiar with it, and just kind of shed some light there and inspire people to go see some cool films.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. There's a couple of foreign films at the Scottsdale Film Festival in November that I looked into, and they look really interesting, so I think I'm going to go check them out. So, All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. Eric, where can they find us online?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Easy Podcast. You can find us on YouTube at The Easy Podcast Show.
And I'm on Instagram at Zach Abbots.
And I'm on Instagram at Eric Thurston.
So we'll put those in the show notes, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.